I seek refuge and guard from the Satan in the name of Allah who is gracious and merciful. Quran topics by Tanvir Kazmi. Chapter number 63 Will, Inheritance, English audio. Al Baqarah, Surah 2, verse 180. It is decreed that when death approaches, you shall write a will for the benefit of the parents and the relatives, equitably. This is a duty upon the righteous. If anyone alters a will, he had heard, the sin of altering befalls those responsible for such altering. Allah is here knowing. If one sees gross injustice or bias on the part of testator and takes corrective actions to restore justice to the will, he commits no sin. God is forgiver, most merciful. Al Baqarah Surah 2 verse 188. You shall not take each other's money illicitly, nor shall you bribe the officials to deprive others of some of their rights illicitly while you know. Al Nisa, Surah 4, verse 7. The men get a share of what the parents and the relatives leave behind. The women too shall get a share of what the parents and the relatives leave behind, whether it is a small or a large inheritance. A definite share. During distribution of the inheritance, if the relatives, orphans, and needy persons are present, you shall give them therefrom and treat them kindly. Those who are concerned about their own children, in case they leave them behind, shall observe Allah and be equitable. Those who consume the orphans' properties unjustly eat fire into their bellies and will suffer in hellfire. Allah decrees a will for the benefit of your children. The male gets twice the share of the females. If the inheritors are only women, more than two, they get two-thirds of what is bequeathed. If only one daughter is left, she gets one half. The parents of the deceased get one-sixth of the inheritance each. If the deceased has left any children, if he have if he left no children and his parents are the only inheritors, the mother gets one third. If he has siblings, then the mother gets one sixth. All this after fulfilling any will the deceased has left and after paying off all debts. When it comes to your parents and your children, you do not know which of them is really the best to you and the most beneficial. This is God's law. God is all knowing, most wise. You get half of what your wives leave behind if they had no children. If they had children, you get one fourth of what they leave. All this after fulfilling any will they had left, and after paying off all debts, they get one fourth of what you leave behind if you had no children. If you had children, they get one eighth of what you begot. All this after fulfilling any will you had left, and after paying off all debts. If the deceased man or woman was a loner and leaves two siblings, male or female, each of them gets one sixth of the inheritance. If there are more siblings, then they equally share one third of the inheritance. All this after fulfilling any will and after paying off all debts, so that no one is hurt. This is a will decreed by Allah. God is all knowing, clement. These are God's law. Those who obey God and His Messenger, He will admit them into gardens with flowing streams, wherein they live forever. This is the greatest win. As for the one who disobeys Allah and His Messenger and transgresses His laws, He will admit him into hellfire, wherein they will live. He has incurred a shameful punishment. Al Nisa, Surah 4, verse 29. O you believe, do not consume each other's properties illicitly. Only mutually acceptable transactions are permitted. You shall not kill yourselves. God is merciful toward you. Anyone who commits these transgressions maliciously and deliberately, we will condemn him to hell. This is easy for God to do. If you refrain from committing the gross sins that are prohibited for you, you will remit your sins. We will remit your sins and admit you an honorable admittance. You shall not covet the qualities bestowed upon each other by Allah. The man enjoys certain qualities and the woman enjoys certain qualities. You may implore God to shower you with His grace. Allah is fully aware of all things. For each of you, you have designated shares from the inheritance left by parents and the relatives, also those related to you marriage, also those related to you through marriage. You shall give them their due share. God is witnesses all things. Al-Nisa, Surah 4, verse 176. They consult you, say Allah advises you concerning the single person. If one dies and leaves no children, and he had a sister, she gets half the inheritance. If she dies first, the inherits from her. If she left no children, if there were two sisters, they get two-thirds of the inheritance. If the siblings are men and the woman, the male get twice the share of the female. God thus clarifies for you, lest you go astray. Allah is fully aware of all things. Al-Ma'idah Surah 5, verse 106. O you believe, witnessing a will when one of you is dying shall be done by two equitable people among you. If you are traveling, then two others may do the witnessing. After observing the prayers, let the witnesses swear by God to alleviate your doubts. We will not use this to attain personal gains, even if the testator is related to us, nor will we conceal, hide God's testimony, otherwise, we would be sinners. If the witnesses are found to be guilty of bias, then two others shall be asked to take their places. Choose two persons who were victimized by the first witnesses, and let them swear by Allah. Our testimony is more truthful than theirs. We will not be biased, otherwise, we will be transgressors. This is more apt to encourage an honest testimony on their part, fearing that their oath may be disregarded like that of the previous witnesses. You shall observe Allah and listen. God does not guide the wicked. Sadaqallahu azim.